Hi, and welcome back to the channel. I've got a great reflective moment for you today that I think you'll find fascinating. It's actually about research that proved how power actually rewires your brain. Most leaders don't wake up one day and decide they're going to stop caring about people. It just doesn't happen like that. What usually happens is much subtler. Most people genuinely believe they are good leaders. I know, it's hard to believe, but it's true. They want to do the right thing. And I believe that initially we all start out that way. One colleague of mine used to describe this as us being the hero of our own story. And that's not meant sarcastically. It's just human nature. As a leader's influence grows, more responsibility, more authority, more decisions resting on their shoulders, something else often starts to emerge alongside that growth. And it can be easy to miss because on the outside, advancement looks like success. That's what we're told to aim for. That's what gets rewarded. But that kind of success often comes with a hidden downside, a gradual reduction in compassion, a reduction in caring, and the ability to truly relate to others, because power changes how attention works. But before we get too far into it, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to my channel if you like this type of content. Now, let's jump in. In a well-known body of research led by Adam Galinsky, and I'll put his name here, and his colleagues, researchers examined what happens when ordinary people are placed in a psychological state of power. Participants weren't CEOs or politicians. They were just regular people who were simply asked to recall a time when they had power over others, or a time when people had power over them. Everything else stayed the same. After that brief exercise, participants completed tasks that measured how well they could take another person's perspective and how accurately they could read emotional cues. Things like facial expressions and social scenarios. The results were consistent and actually rather striking. The results showed that people who were placed in a high power mindset were less likely to naturally consider another person's point of view. They were also less accurate at identifying emotions in others, even though their intelligence, their experience, and their values hadn't changed at all. Same people, same capabilities, just with a different level of perceived power. What the researchers concluded wasn't that power makes people uncaring. It was that power creates a self-focused orientation. When we have power, our attention turns inward. Essentially, the brain relies more on internal assumptions and less on external social signals. This is sometimes described as a reduction in mirroring, which is the subtle, often unconscious process where we tune into other people's emotional states. And when that mirroring weakens, empathy starts to erode. It becomes less automatic. And that really matters because leadership is built on human interpretation. Tone, timing, what isn't being said, what is the subcontext? Most people know that more senior you become, the fewer people will correct you. I know I've personally seen that in most of the environments I've worked in. Feedback really starts to thin out. People adapt to you instead of the other way around. They choose their words more carefully. They stop pushing back in the same way. It really takes courage for those that do continue to push back or to question. That puts their own career at risk. Fewer people will question decisions, sometimes out of fear, but sometimes just out of efficiency or politeness or the desire to be accepted or liked, or maybe even for career advancement, right? You've seen those people who kind of suck up to the leaders. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, they're just overreacting? This is obvious. Why don't they get it? Or, I don't have time to manage feelings right now. Now, if you've ever caught yourself saying any form of those things, that might be a warning sign that power is narrowing your field of view. And we've seen this dynamic play out publicly. Take Elon Musk, for example. Regardless of how you feel about him, Earlier in his career, he was often described as intensely curious, deeply engaged with technical experts, and willing to wrestle with opposing viewpoints. Over time, as his power, his wealth, his influence, and his visibility grew, former employees and observers noticed a significant shift in his behavior. He made decisions more quickly, showed less tolerance for dissent, and the gap between his intentions and their impact widened. His increase in power changed the feedback loop, and this isn't unique to him. We see versions of this all over the place, in business, healthcare, government, even nonprofits. Anywhere where power can accumulate. The higher someone climbs, the easier it becomes to confuse confidence with accuracy and authority with understanding. What makes this especially difficult is that from the inside, it rarely feels like arrogance. From the person's point of view, it feels like urgency or clarity or being the only one who sees the whole picture, right? I've even been there myself, where I believe I kind of know better than the people who are challenging me. So how do you start to recognize this in yourself before it starts doing too much damage and really starts to take hold? There are some early signals leaders can watch for. So here are a few potential signals. If people bring you fewer problems, but also fewer ideas, remember, innovation doesn't thrive under leaders who don't welcome it. If meetings feel efficient, but oddly flat, like nobody is asking questions or saying too much. Also, if you notice more agreement than debate. When you only hear yes around you to everything, well, that's something to really pay attention to. If smart and engaged team members become quiet, you're in trouble. If you think you're always the smartest person in the room, you just might not be, and your brain might already be rewired. And you might hear your default response shifting from "tell me more" to "I already know where this is going." That's definitely a clear indication your perspective is narrowing. It's funny, power has a way of convincing us that speed matters more than understanding. And sometimes it does, yes, but when speed becomes a habit, empathy is usually the first thing that's pushed aside. This doesn't mean leadership or going into leadership makes you less human. It means that leadership demands more intentional humanity. Our primary job as leaders is to continually reflect, to self-assess and ask for feedback from others. That's the only way that we're going to keep ourselves in check. It's important to keep our egos in check and have some humility, some vulnerability. And be careful, because empathy won't disappear all at once. It will fade at the edges, so you might not even realize it's happening to you. The leaders who stay trusted over time are the ones who notice when power starts to change how they see things, and those who consciously choose to counteract it. They slow themselves down when they could rush. They invite dissent when they could easily just dominate. They stay close enough to real people who will challenge them and tell them the truth, so that they can't forget how their decisions land. Keep in mind that power doesn't just change how others see you, it changes how you see them. And leadership isn't about staying untouched by power. The power will just come. It's about asking again and again, what might I be missing now that I sit where I sit? And remember, with the advancement of AI, empathy is going to be truly important in the years to come. Well, that's all I have for today. I hope you found this video helpful and this content useful. And if you did, just a simple reminder to please like the video. Leave me a comment. I would love to hear whether you've noticed a connection to power and a decline in empathy in your workplace. Bye for now.